And I guess I will invite Teresa. It's your turn now, Teresa, please.
So, hello everyone, welcome. So happy to see you all and so excited that my friend and special guest Annmarie Brogan is here tonight, and I'm going to just introduce her a little bit. It's just so I'll read about her. Professional organizer and expert in the field of decluttering and home organization. She is co-owner of Organize Me of New York LLC, as well as a credentialed life coach and mind-body skills facilitator. She holds certifications in applied positive psychology and resilience training, and just recently earned her master's in happiness studies, studying under Dr. Tal Ben-Shahar. Annmarie's mission lies at the intersection of organized living and high-level well-being. Our home environment impacts us far beyond what the eye can see, physically, mentally, and emotionally. It affects our confidence and reliability, our relationships, and how we communicate. It influences how we spend our time and money. It profoundly affects our levels of stress, anxiety, willpower, creativity, and productivity. So organized living is not just about how neat and tidy a space looks. It's about how organizing systems can support our goals and the way we want to show up in the world. There's so much we can't control in this life, but our space and what we fill with it, that we can control. And when we do it with awareness and intention, we can truly create a home and life we love. So welcome, Annmarie. We can't wait to hear all about all of this.
Thank
Exciting.
you. That sounded so nice when you put it like that. It's very powerful to hear things like that, read back to you.
So, well, and this is exciting. I mean, this is huge for all of us to hear about. So I'd like to know how you got into this first, like how you got into professional organizing, and how did that start?
Well, this whole field, either it didn't exist when I was going to college, or people just didn't know about it, way back in ye olden days when I was undergrad and deciding what do I want to be when I grow up. So that was not on my radar at the time. I grew up in Brooklyn, as you know, because that's where I met you. That'll be a whole other discussion for later in the talk, how Teresa and I have come full circle in our lives in such a beautiful way. But I grew up in Brooklyn, and things were different when I was growing up. When my daughter went to college, it's like we went to all these colleges, we visited, we talked about options. There was a whole big production around it. When I was going to college, my parents said, you'll go to one of these 3 colleges in New York, you'll study business, you should get a business degree. And that's what I did. And it was fine. I had worked in my dad's office from when I was like 15, and I had worked in the city with him when there were vacations and stuff like that. So that's what I knew. I knew that type of work. And I had wanted to do something completely different. I was studying acting. I'm a singer. I wanted to sing. I wanted to perform. I thought I would be on Broadway, all those things. And I can look back now with the background I have now in positive psychology and happiness studies and see how fear kind of played into some of my choices, how I played things safe. It was really interesting. But obviously my theater life was very rich. I did a lot of community theater. That's where you and I met, and Victoria. And so that's really what I focused on when I went to college. It was like having a backup for what I was going to do with acting, hopefully. And the more I worked after I got out of college and I was doing that, kind of having that safety net, the more I liked that safety net. And because I grew up an only child and my parents were older, I kind of felt scared to leave the nest. And I kind of felt scared to put myself out there. And I didn't mind working in business. Like I liked the jobs that I had, most of them. I liked. And so I said, okay, let's just do that. And I'll do community theater on the side, which, as you know, I did for many, many years, and I really loved it. I'd like to think if I could go back in time with my knowledge now, maybe I would have been braver. And I would love to think that that's the case, but isn't that the case with everything in hindsight, right? You know, you kind of see your growth, and maybe if I had done that, I wouldn't be here, and maybe I wouldn't have had this path. So I try not to think of what ifs, and I just try to think of how my past experiences have shaped me until now. So to answer your original question, because I've really gone around the block with that one, I really did not know anything about professional organizing until I became a parent, and I stayed at home for 5 years. I was a stay-at-home mom. And I was very thrown by just having my one little baby who was not a difficult child. And yet I was all of a sudden thrown into this feeling of just disarray. I had been very organized and on my game. I was very organized in my professional life. I managed people, I managed processes, I managed deadlines, impossibly tight deadlines. I got all of that done. I ran my, my different positions and my departments, all of that like a well-oiled machine. And then I had this little baby who I adored. And I was like, why am I not dressed? It's 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I'm not showered. Everything is everywhere. All of a sudden, I could not believe the impact this little baby had. I can tell you, I did not move through those initial months with the same grace that our friend Jasmine did while earning a master's degree at the same time. That was not me. Every day it was just like, let's just try to do the best we can and hope we come out on the other side. And so my girlfriend, who is now my business partner for almost 17 years, was going through the same stage in her life. She had two. The youngest is the same age as my daughter, Juliana. And she was going through the same thing. And basically, we just started helping each other. And we just started trying to help each other kind of dig out from under and to develop a new normal, really. Like, what does our new normal look like? How can we kind of get ahead of everything that's happening, all this stuff that came into the house, like one little baby, and there's all this stuff all of a sudden in the house. And so we started helping each other, and people started, asking us questions. They're like, how are you doing it? All of it's because obviously I went from being a mess to feeling a little bit more in control. And then it was great. And we started helping other people. And at the same time, there were a lot of shows starting to happen on HGTV. On TV, there was Clean House, there was Clean Sweep, there was Mission Organization, there was NEAT, and there was one other, and I can't think of the name of it right now. But people started to become a little bit more familiar with the idea of it. And, so our friends who we were helping, they were just like, you should do that. And we were thinking, who's going to pay us money to do this? Like, is this a thing? But we said, you know what? We wanted to go back to work. We knew if we went back to our careers, my partner and my friend also worked in corporate America in the city. We knew if we went back to those jobs, we wouldn't be able to pick up our kids from school. We wouldn't be able to be at their different events and their activities and stuff like that. And we were fortunate enough to be able to stay home with them. So it's like, what can we do? Because that's all we knew was that type of work. And so we just decided to give it a shot. And I have to tell you, we know so much more about how to start a business now. We didn't have the internet with, information at the tip of our fingers. How do you start a business? How do you do that? We didn't know what we were doing. We kind of made up a name and did a flyer and hung it up at the dry cleaner. And it was very interesting how we started. I would say that when I look back on it, if I was giving advice to people now, I'd say just do like almost the opposite of everything we did. You'll save yourself a lot of angst. We just got very lucky. It was it's been a wonderful ride for us.
Wow. Wow. Exciting, very inspiring.
Chấm một cân. À, giờ thay đồ đi áo ướt từ nãy giờ chấm thôi.
I'm looking at, oh, Jasmine, I'm looking at the comments. Yeah. Oh, yeah. I wanted to be on Broadway.
Yeah.
Jasmine, I did.
Oh, I
Or
did.
just wanted
I can't
to-
expect you are like a Broadway singer, but you know the fact that you and Teresa and suddenly I forgot her name.
Victoria.
Victoria, yes. I was like, really?
Oh, yeah. We did a lot of shows together. I really wish I would have had a little more time. I would have dug up stuff in the archives and I'd be sharing my screen right now and absolutely mortifying Teresa. If I
Well,
could.
Jasmine's face lit up as soon as you said singing and community theater, like theater, her eyes like, she was like, wow. So it was
Yeah,
very
it's a great joy. It was a great joy of mine. Those years that we spent together during that time were some of the happiest of my life still to this day, and have given me lifelong friendships like with Teresa and Victoria that you can't put a price on. It's just spectacular. I highly recommend theater to people, whether you enjoy it as a spectator or whether you participate even in a community theater. If you get into a good group, there is something for everybody. Even if you can't sing a note or you don't feel like you can get on stage, there are so many different ways. You know, when you talk about positive psychology and happiness studies and the idea of belonging and feeling that you're part of something bigger than yourself, and realizing that as a team you could work towards something and create something beautiful that impacts an audience in a way that you hope it will, and also in ways that you can't possibly anticipate because everybody else is on their own journey and they're experiencing it differently. It's so wonderful for confidence and for belonging and for developing skills and for learning how to work on a team and for supporting each other. And that those skills that you learn, and that it's very similar to the skills that you learn in sports too, that can translate then into the rest of your life. When you get a position, when you work for a company, when you have a hierarchy, or when you're working on team projects, and there's so many skills with it. And I think all of those skills have helped me in my life. Even now, the fact that I can just talk to you now and pretend nobody's watching and this is not being live streamed. It's, I'm all evidence to the contrary, not an extrovert. So it doesn't, it comes easier because of the theater experience that I had, for sure.
Well, we had definitely the growth of it was the team and then the supportive family that we created, I think, from the theater, our theater experience too. It became a family. So
absolutely.
I mean, is it about 30 years? I think it was 30. I was trying to think about how many years it's been. I think.
Well, my first show with the group that had you in it, where I would have met you, was in 1991.
Was that Pirates? Pirates of Penzance?
My first show was Godspell. I sang on stage for Godspell. My first show, yes, on stage, was Pirates. And you were in that. We were in that together.
Right.
That's our first show together, was Pirates. Yeah. Pirates of Penzance. Oh, I will find the pictures and send them to you guys.
Oh my, yeah.
They are fun.
The good old days.
They were the good old days. They were the good old days. And it's so interesting because, so Teresa and I have been friends for over 30 years, but we didn't take the same path in terms of our career or our education. We went and did our own thing in terms of that. So to be reunited in this master's program is destiny, fate. If you believe in fate, it's fate. That's no small thing that we are sharing this with, obviously with Vicky too. After 30 years of, that's not how we met and that's not what our connection was. It was has nothing to do with psychology, positive or otherwise. And so that's been a great joy of mine, to not only go through this program and to meet all the wonderful new people from around the world and to share this with them, especially as part of the first cohort, master's cohort, but to share it with you guys in particular is kind of extraordinary. And to your credit, Jasmine, for putting together these get-togethers, I've been watching them. I haven't been able to attend them live like this, but I've been watching, and I watched Teresa's, and 30 years or not, I learned a lot. I learned a lot in that, and which makes me happy and it makes me sad. There were things that I learned that I feel like I should have known, and you know what I mean? So it's so important to not assume that we know somebody, or that we know their whole story, or that we know everything that has led a person to the place that they are and who they are, and that there's always ways to learn more about the people that you love in your life, or the people that you've met in one capacity. I find that too. This is going to sound a little, it's really not somber. It's actually an interesting thing. I find that at funerals too, or wakes, where people get up and they do a eulogy. And I find that people that I thought I knew my whole life, I'll find out details that I had no idea about. It really, really makes me appreciate that person even more. And so of course you'd rather do that while they're still with us, right? So I think that there's so many different ways to even apply that concept in our everyday relationships, right? What can we still learn? I'm coming up on 30 years of marriage with my husband, and I'm still amazed that I'm still learning about things. He told some story the other day. I said, wait, what? What? So that's been pretty interesting and fun. It makes me appreciate him even more.
Yeah.
So.
And I got a chance to meet your husband as well at the retreat. He
Ah.
was so nice.
He's a good egg, my husband.
Yeah, he is. And your family look absolutely adorable and lovely.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, your daughter is so beautiful.
Thank you. She is my heart and soul, my life. She's my miracle baby. So, yeah, she is my heart and soul.
And earlier, sorry, Teresa, but I want to ask this question. Earlier, you said that when you had her stay-at-home mom, and then you organize a business with your friend. What type of business is that?
The organizing business, that's where the organizing business Organize Me of New York. That's where that started, because that wasn't my career. My career was in magazine publishing and then qualitative market research. That's what my corporate career was in. I had a very brief stint in advertising, which I did not like at all. And that was in between. That was after magazine publishing. I did a brief stint in advertising. I did not like that for myself. It wasn't a good fit. And then I tried to go back into magazine publishing. And in trying to do that, I had an opportunity to interview with a qualitative market research firm that was hired by one of the magazine publishers that I had also been interviewing with. They were like, we don't have any openings right now, but our market research firm does. And that's how I got that job and learned a little bit about qualitative market research. And that's how I really got interested in human behavior, and why people make the decisions they make and what kind of appeals to them. And so I found that fascinating in general, just, the things that drive people and their behavior. And that definitely tied in later to how I took in information when I was learning about positive psychology and stuff like that. So everything is interconnected, as we all know, Spire, right? Everything is interconnected. And I can look back and see how all of my experiences, good and bad, are interconnected and have shaped my perception of things, how I move towards things, my values, my strengths, and the things that I work, the weaknesses, or lower strengths that I try to make higher strengths, what I try to work on. It all comes into play. And I can look back and see that. I guess that's as with age comes wisdom, they say that. I'm starting to experience that a little bit. So
Yeah, thank you. That's beautiful. I need to learn more from you about the interview. I'm the newbie here, so maybe we need to have another podcast about interview, cooperation, and then business, for Annmarie to host.
Need a host.
Yeah. I mean, or to teach. I can be the host, but then you will be the teacher.
But I'm laughing because I'm teaching you that, when we did our business, like you should just do the exact opposite of what I did. We didn't know what we were doing. There's so many more resources available now. The way you communicate, the way there was no social media. Very few businesses had a website, when we were starting. We didn't, if we needed information, we had to go to the library and look it up in an encyclopedia. It was a very different world. So it's fascinating to see how quickly a new business can grow and kind of take off. It's great. Technology I have a love-hate relationship with it, but the love part of it is definitely our ability to, get a master's online and foster a community like this when we've, except for that one period of time at graduation, not met each other in real life. It's amazing, for sure.
Sure. I see that Teresa has a question, I guess. And then we have a few questions and compliment on the chat box too. So back to Teresa. Thank you.
Chanel, you are so sweet. I love you, girl. I miss you so much. Oh my goodness, agency theater in the Zoom. Oh yeah, we could do a show. We'll do a virtual show.
That would be great. Oh my goodness, funny.
Hero, hi. Oh my goodness. Oh, I love you guys.
So I know that clutter can negatively impact us. How do you feel about that? How do you feel that clutter negatively impacts us in different ways? So how do you, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, it does. First of all, there is science to support that. So thankfully, the good scientists of the world did the hard stuff. And I can just reap the benefits and kind of say that. To go around the block and answer another one of your questions, not directly. When I discovered positive psychology, I did it through the Flourishing Center in New York, as did you eventually afterwards. But when I was doing it, it was 2018, and I was in a great state of flux. And so I signed up for the certification, which was then a 6-month hybrid certification. Now it is offered, I think, for 9 months, all virtual. But back then it was both. So I was getting in-person learning and I was doing distance learning, and it was a little bit asynchronous with pre-recorded stuff and assignments. But I did that all for my personal growth, my personal well-being. I didn't know I was fostering my intellectual well-being. I just knew I needed some new skills, some new knowledge. I was in a great state of flux for a variety of reasons. And I didn't know what was going to happen with Organize Me, if that was going to continue on. And so I was doing it very personally. But we would have these weekends once a month where we would have Saturday and Sunday, all day, in-person learning with our cohort, with Amelia Zhivotowskia, who was the founder, and she studied directly. She was part of, I believe she was part of the first MAP cohort at Penn, studying directly under Marty Seligman. And so she curated this program, and I sat there every week. And even though I had done it for personal reasons, with no thought of connecting it to organizing at all, every time I would learn about something, I would say, oh my goodness, this is what my clients are going through. Oh my gosh. It all of a sudden became very clear to me in a way I had never I had never expected. I could see where, when I learned about growth and fixed mindset, that was a game changer for me, understanding and, learning about my own fixed mindsets, about different areas of my life, which I still have some fixed mindsets here and there. But how to cultivate a growth mindset, and recognizing how many of my clients had fixed mindsets about their abilities. And all of a sudden, I realized I was learning all about these different tools and strategies and science-based concepts that could help them. Because when I learned, some of the people in the MA program only learned about neuroplasticity from the MA program, but I had learned about it in positive psychology, as did you in that program. Neuroplasticity and understanding neuroplasticity, even at its most basic level, again, game changer for me, but also game changer in the way that I could teach them now. Because like when people thought they weren't born with the organizing gene. I mean, you either have it or you don't, right? That's what a person with a fixed mindset says. I'm either talented or I'm not. I'm smart or I'm not. I have the ability to be organized or I don't have that. And I could now turn around and say, I understand that those feelings are very real for you, but that's actually not how the brain works. Are you open to hearing how the brain works? Because actually the brain is pretty malleable and it's, it's plastic, so to speak. We can mold it, and you can learn new skills and you can gain knowledge and you can improve over time if you, dedicated practice, a sincere desire to learn. And when the clients would all of a sudden buy into that, it was as if, first of all, for some, it was like, well, now I don't have any excuse because that there is no organizing gene. So, okay, now I have no excuse, right? But for other people, it was also very, like it was for me, it was very liberating because it meant that there were possibilities. And anybody who studied hope theory, also from positive psychology and happiness studies, when you've studied hope theory, there has to be an element of hope if you want to get from point A to point B, right? And anybody who's a coach in the group will understand that too. There has to be a certain degree of hope and optimism in the equation, because otherwise, what is going to possess you to embrace a growth mindset, to face challenges as they come up? Because of course there's going to be obstacles. Organizing, like everything else, is trial and error. It's going to be perfectly good organizing systems that will work for, 10 of your closest friends, and it will not work for you. That doesn't mean it's not a good system. Could be a great system. And it doesn't mean that you can't get organized. It just means you need a different system. Right? So all of a sudden I'm sitting there with positive psychology and I'm like, oh, this is something that, and then even something like learning about the Zeigarnik effect. That was research that was done in 1927. And it had to do with, it was a study that she Romanian, I believe. Forgive me, I might be getting that wrong, but I don't know if she was Romanian, but she's a psychologist who did research, and I think it was like a restaurant study, like a study of servers in a restaurant. And she kind of concluded that people tended to remember uncompleted tasks much easier than they remembered completed tasks. It's almost like, and it was, she described it as like open loops in the brain. And that kind of resonated with me because I started thinking that's why to-do lists are so stressful. People, they have a to-do list. It's very good. You want to have a to-do list because you want to stay organized and on top of your tasks. And at the same time, you could look at a to-do list and feel massively overwhelmed by the number of things that you think you have to do. And yet also there's research that shows that when you cross an item off your to-do list, it's like this profound sense of accomplishment and, relief and a good positive emotions, which you can then tie to Barbara Fredrickson's work on positivity and positive emotion. So there's so many, again, interconnected, so many different ways. But how can we close the loops? So if I teach about finishing the task and the importance of doing that, how does that play into working with my clients. So now over the past, now 2024, 6 years, I've been able to integrate all of the things that I've learned between my certifications and my coaching and then my, and now the masters. I incorporate all of that into my work with my clients. So in terms of growth, getting back to growth mindset and what are our limiting beliefs, identity, right? And stories. How much did Tal and does Tal emphasize the role of stories? What is the story that you're telling yourself about your abilities? What is the story that you're telling yourself about the person that you are, how you show up in the world? How you show up in the world is impacted by the environment that you're in. So you can imagine those of you who are HSA members, you know, Tal talks about the environment, and you'll see me looking off stage, like I'm looking at my environment right now. And thanks to Tal and thanks to my studies previously, I've kind of put things around me that support how I want to feel in this space, because this is the space where I'm being creative. And that's how I want to be creative and productive. And I want to feel a certain way that impacts how I show up. It gives me the courage to stand in front of people and talk. It gives me energy to do that. From it, like energy that I get from an emotional standpoint and energy that I get from not losing energy to disorganization. You know, for people that are living in an extreme state of disorganization, getting ready in the morning can feel like an Olympic event. And actually, that's like a little nice tie-in to, you know, this past month with the Olympics. But, you know, it's like an Olympic event, not in a good way and not where you're getting a medal. It's kind of like an Olympic event where you don't qualify or you don't get up on the podium or, you know, and you start off the day behind and losing energy, either because physically you ran around a lot looking for stuff that you needed, but you couldn't find it because it wasn't organized and you didn't have systems that were supporting you, or just from the emotional drain. Negative emotions drain us. And having to make so many more decisions and to think so much more in order to just navigate your space before getting out of the house or getting onto a call if you work virtually. There's so much that comes into play with that. And then that can send you on a negative spiral. You know, do we want to create a positive spiral or do we want to go into a negative spiral? And that's what happens a lot with our clients. So how can the organizing systems support who you are becoming, who you want to become, where you want to go in terms of how you run your household, which then, of course, everything is interconnected, impacts everything around you. Are you a parent that's snapping at your kids because you're frustrated with them, because everything is a mess and they don't have the skills to be organized, and you're not maybe mirroring that behavior because you don't feel organized? You know, is your spouse angry with you because you're spending money, because you're replacing things you already own because you can't find them? Right? So that's why, you know, we talk about beyond tidy, right? Beyond tidy is because it's so much more than what the eye can see. It's so much more than what you see on Pinterest. People look at Pinterest and they think, oh, good, I can never do that. But that doesn't really show you what it means to be living an organized life. That just shows you what it looks like. That could look really great, and there could also be chaos in every drawer and behind every cabinet door. You know, it's how can the organizing support you? And I just think I have always thought of organized living and the work that my partner and I do as a form of wellness and self-care. And it's just one of many, many pathways to a happier life and higher well-being.
So agree. So agree. Very good. Oh, that's amazing.
I've learned a lot from my clients too. You know, and I've learned how to apply this a lot in my own house, you know, just just because I'm a professional organizer doesn't mean everything's perfect in my house. My house doesn't look pristine. You know, we're regular people living regular lives, but I can tell you that when you live an organized life and you have organizing systems, you can restore your home to order much quicker than when you're not starting from, you know, a good foundation of organization. Doesn't mean that my house doesn't get messy. Sometimes my house looks like a bomb hit it, but I can clean that bomb up really quickly. So that's the difference too. You know, people have these unreasonable expectations about what it means to be organized, and what that looks like on an everyday basis. So a lot of the pictures that we post on our social media, you know, if people follow us, they're not Pinterest perfect, because that's not most of the time what real organized living looks like. So we try to balance it out. Like, yes, it'll look good, but it doesn't look perfect, because it's, you know, sometimes people have gone from like this crazy place of disorganization and they got to the next step, and we celebrate that, you know, celebrating the wins. Again, positive psychology. It's not happyology. It's just, how do we help our clients kind of move through those negative emotions when they come up? And how do we celebrate those small wins so that the motivation is there to keep going and to recognize where you've come from and where you've gone. People try to go from A to Z. And we're like, there's 24 more letters in the alphabet that are in between there. You know, Pinterest is Z, where you're starting out maybe A, or maybe it's D, or maybe it's P, wherever. We just want you to go to the next level. So how can we celebrate that? And that's another way where it comes into play, recognizing that, even like understanding how it plays out in everyday life. Like, even if you learn about neuroplasticity, you know, I could, you know, just because you understand neuroplasticity works doesn't mean that if I, you know, practice basketball every day, I'm going to be the next, you know, what is her name? Caitlin, the one that is in the news a lot, or Michael Jordan. You know, I'm not going to be Michael Jordan just because you know, but I can be better than I am today, because today I have very few basketball skills. But if I practiced every day, I could get better. Or if I learn a subject every day, I could get better. I used to have a very fixed mindset about, ironically, science, any class that was based in science. So even to sign up for that positive psychology certification, which was marketed as science-based, was a big leap of faith for me, because I had a fixed mindset about what my capabilities were in understanding science. So that's been a good leap of faith for me, to move through that discomfort and that fixed mindset. I didn't know it was a fixed mindset before I got there. I learned it was a fixed mindset while I was there. And then I was forced, again, with my knowledge, right? It forces you to look at things differently and say, oh, these negative thoughts are coming up. And I think that's part of why a lot of what I teach in my work it focuses a lot, and a lot of my final projects were on negative emotions and managing, navigating them, and challenging them when they were no longer serving us, right? Negative thoughts, negative emotions. Negative thoughts can lead to negative emotions, and challenging them and saying, okay, is that true? Or is it completely true? Because some of it might be true. Some of the negative feelings you're feeling might be true, but is that the complete story? Is that the whole story? And when you don't embrace the whole story, how is that getting in your way? How might that be sabotaging you? And so I'm still working on the ways in which I sometimes self-sabotage due to limiting beliefs, or even ones that I've somewhat overcome, but, you know, like when you're depleted and you're tired, you kind of default back into, you know, if you have 50 years of a debilitating and limiting belief, you know, couple of years of not having that belief, that those neural pathways on those old beliefs are still strong, which is why repetition and consistency are key, right? That's why, what is meditation? It's a practice. You know, when we're trying to develop these new things, you know, journaling, whatever we're doing, it's the consistency and the repetition that over time, that really lead to the gains that you want to, you know, that you're trying to make and that you want to make and that you do make. It's those consistencies. You know, if I flex my bicep once, I'm not going to have this great muscle, but if I do MVIs, or if I do a short workout, or if I do, you know, my girl Chanel's 7-minute HIIT workout, which I think shared with Ben, you know, that's the consistency of that over time gets you to where you want to be. So again, tying that back to organizing, how can we reinforce the wins with our clients? How can we get them up and running to the next stage on their organizing journey? And then when they have kind of mastered that step, okay, you could either stay here because it's working and great, or if you want to take it to the next level, this is what you can do. So much that we can unpack with this. And I think that's why this program, you know, I did that short little unexpected interview with Tal for Pix 11, which was so last minute. And I was so happy that I was able to get that one piece in at the end where they asked the question, well, what are you going to do with this degree now? Because that is the question that you get asked when you hear you got a master's in happiness studies. And I believe that I said that I'm already using it, and I tie it. And that's what's so great about this program is you can incorporate it into the work you're already doing. And we should be doing that. And I think that's what makes it so versatile. And that's what gets me, it has reinvigorated, you know, I've always loved what I do, but it really, really energized me to be able to incorporate this learning into my work with clients. And some of my clients I've been with for a long time. They bring us from house to house as they move. We've watched their kids grow up. So sometimes we'll revisit a space because their kids, you know, how we organize them as babies is not going to be the way we organize them as teenagers. And so we've been with certain families for many years. And, you know, and so it's kind of amazing to even see the evolution of how I teach the same people that I taught 16 years ago, maybe somebody. It's interesting to see how that's evolved. And again, to show that you have to be a lifelong learner and that there's always something that you can do to reinvent yourself or just to build upon what you've already learned and created. So.
I wish I could hug you right now. That's great. I know we have some questions in the chat.
Okay.
Let's see. What are the periodic exercises related to Spire that you keep on doing in your day?
The exercises meaning physical exercises or any kind of practice that we learned?
I related to HSA Spire. So Spire.
Anything related to Spire.
Yep.
So many different things. Prior to even learning about Spire, or even positive psychology, I've always been one to physical exercise is a big part of my wellness routine. It has been for years. I have been working out at home for years, which is interesting. I've been doing that I've been doing for more than 30 years. I used to buy the Firm videos. If anybody remembers the Firm workouts, might as well have been Jane Fonda. It's you know, again, I'm dating myself, but I used to buy them and I would work out with my girlfriend. They were VHS tapes, by the way. Yeah, I'm really dating myself. And we would work out at home. And I was never one to go, I shouldn't say that. Over the years, I would try every once in a while to get a gym membership and to go to the gym. And for some people, they need that. They need to get out of the house and they like the socialization of it, which is a great thing. You know, it's all good when it works for you. It never worked for me. I was never consistent with it. I did not actually want to socialize so much. I wanted to kind of do my workout, and so working out at home really serves me, and always did. And so when COVID hit, there really was no transition in terms of physical workouts for me. And the only thing that has changed is there are more offerings now for shorter workouts. So years ago, it's like you worked out for an hour or more. And now, we know the research that you don't need to do that. You can do, you can do a HIIT workout. And sometimes in certain cases, HIIT workouts are even more effective. And what I've taken from, to not go so far around the block before answering the question, I incorporate more, I look at it in terms of movement and incorporating movement. So I don't get down on myself if I can't, for whatever reason, do a workout in the morning because maybe I really have an early client, or for whatever reason, I miss my window of opportunity to work out. Years ago, that might have been if my daughter was sick. It didn't matter what was going on. It didn't matter if I wanted to work out. If my daughter was sick, that was going to be I was a caregiver to my dad for many years. So that was the issue. That doesn't really happen so much now. It's just we're empty nesters. My daughter does not live at home. She lives in the city. And so it's just my husband and me. So there's very few mornings that I can't work out, but sometimes I can't work out for the length of time I'd like to. And so having resources like, again, Chanel, you might as well have recorded that HIIT video yourself because you get full credit for that. It's very hard to say you don't have 7 minutes. And so what I do is I make sure that I get something in. I get a 7-minute workout, or I get, I can't do a 10-minute meditation, which is my preference. I will do a 1-minute meditation because I use the Insight Timer app. And the Insight Timer app has as little as 1 minute, where I can set an intention for the day, or I can kind of clear my head, or I could do a couple of affirmations. If I'm feeling out of sorts, I will, or if I'm feeling like I'm having, I don't really like to have conflict, so if I'm feeling like upset with somebody, I'll do a loving kindness meditation because I find that shifts me and helps me see things in a different perspective. So I find that to be very, very helpful. But I will put it in throughout the day. I will take mindful moments, whereas I didn't always do that. It was like I did my morning routine, physical workout, meditation, sometimes breath work, sometimes journaling. Sometimes I didn't journal ever. It's over the years, it's kind of more, I used to have a very dedicated prayer time where I would really kind of just focus on prayer. But sometimes it was an all or nothing thing. And I have one of my greatest takeaways is, it doesn't have to be an either or thing. So I do what I can. If I can do it in the morning, that's great. And throughout the day, where can I fit in a mindful moment? Where can I set an alarm to make sure that I get up and walk around? Like when I'm working with clients, I'm active and I'm out, but when I'm like on a day like today, I was home, but I was working very intently from home on the computer all day. I have to remind myself to get up and move. And so that's been a good thing. And again, it's very hard to say, oh, I don't have 30 seconds to do an MVI. Yes, you can, Annmarie. You can do 30 jumping jacks, or you can, plank for a minute. So that's been great. I think having the awareness and developing the awareness that I considered myself, again, the story we tell ourselves, I considered myself a very active person. And then kind of doing this work, I realized, yes, you are a very active person in the morning. I was getting in a full workout and I was doing, certain things, and then I was very sedentary on the days where I wasn't with clients, especially during COVID and after COVID, where a lot of my work became virtual. And I was doing an online certification or an online master's program. What am I doing? I'm sitting a lot. So I realized, oh no, you're not an active person all day. You're a somewhat active person, but like in the morning. And so then I learned, oh, take a walk in the afternoon, get out in nature. Like I appreciate nature. I used to walk sometimes in nature and not even recognize that I was in nature. And I have definitely a deeper appreciation for that. And I have a deeper appreciation for that even from the previous master's program I was in. I defected with Nikki Milligan. Is Nikki here? Nikki's here, right? Nikki and I defected, and Nikki actually has such a love of nature and such a beautiful appreciation for nature. And I have been very inspired by you, Nikki, and how you connect to nature. And that has definitely had a positive impact on my appreciation. I have always appreciated nature, but I wasn't always mindfully aware of the opportunities that I have, living where I live or just making my own opportunities, So I appreciate that very much. So I've taken a lot of it. And I always feel like I have an arsenal of tools in my toolbox. I don't journal very regularly. I happen to be in an off journaling period, but I can tell you next month I might just start to journal again. And I know I can, and I know the benefits of it. So I always feel like I can't do one thing, I can do another thing. So I just feel like the more tools we have in our toolbox, the better. And I think we should be teaching this to children, and particularly breath work. Just my ability to regulate myself through breathing. That would be another huge one to answer that question. Is I will pause and just do some 4-7-8 breathing, or I will do some just making my exhales longer than my inhales. I have found that to be remarkably helpful. And learning how to stimulate the vagus nerve, how to relax, how to calm myself down. And I think I'm doing it more habitually. I just kind of default to it now, which is kind of nice to recognize. But I always have different options for each one of the interventions that we learned. So it doesn't have to be the same breathing exercise, and it certainly doesn't have to be the same meditation. So there's so many different ways to keep it varied. And I think that's important too. Maybe people try a guided meditation and they hate the person's voice, and so they're like, I hate meditation. But there's thousands and thousands of different ones, and you just have to find the one that resonates. And again, that's sticking with it and having a growth mindset and being open to the possibilities, and just keeping an open mind and trusting the science and trusting the process.
Vero actually agreed with you on your breath work. She was like, yes.
Yes.
She placed a part of you that spoke loudly for her. So
yeah, when I look at my bookshelf, James Nestor and Breath, that was my book of the year, that and Atomic Habits. Big ones for me. And just the breath, learning how to self-regulate. Can you imagine how much different our interactions would be on a personal level, and even on a corporate level, political level, just globally? How different the world would look if we taught kids from a young age how to self-soothe, self-regulate, communicate, celebrate. The potential is there. We have to just elevate the importance of these skills. They are every bit as important, and more so than what is being taught in schools and in life. So we really have an opportunity.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I should have worn my glasses so I can read these.
Well, I'm going to read it for you. So Ben has a question.
Okay.
I know I skipped another one, but I'll go back to that one.
Can I save this chat and savor these later? Because savoring is very good for wellness, and I would love to savor these later.
Yes, you can save them.
Oh, I love you, Nikki.
Do you have a favorite from Ben? Do you have a favorite success story or a particularly transformative experience with a client that you could share with us?
With a client, okay. Not a personal. Oh my goodness, so many, and that's not. And I assure you, and anybody who knows me personally knows, I am actually not tooting my own horn. I get great joy when somebody has a success. So I can give you like various pieces of information. Obviously there is organizer client, so I don't give too many details, but we have had people come to us and say that it has had an incredible impact on their marriages because of the way they had been living, and now the way they were able to dig out from under. We had a mother who was ill and had a lot of physical challenges that prevented her. She wasn't very mobile, and she had a lot of issues with fatigue due to her particular illness, and their state of disorganization made it impossible for them to cook meals. And she wrote us a beautiful testimony years ago saying that I'm for the first time able to cook for my children. And that, I think that might have been the first time I had an aha moment saying, oh my gosh, this is so much more important than whether or not, you know, their glasses are lined up really nice and, you know, everything looks like I can take a good after picture. And it was so much more important than that, recognizing the impact. We have done organization that fostered independence in children, you know, children that were very reliant and they weren't children who used to take the initiative, now all of a sudden fostering their independence through organization. So those have been very inspiring to us. And then having a lot of clients who in our presence would just break down and cry because they felt inept. It didn't matter that they were not inept. It didn't matter that they were quite capable and quite accomplished in many other areas of their life, that they were feeling profound pain and they were feeling less than. They were beaten down either by themselves, either by their own thoughts. They were beating themselves down through negative self-talk, or they were being beaten down by the people around them because for whatever reason, they, prior to working with us, couldn't get out of their state of disorganization. And so they kind of, you know, felt like failures. They weren't failures, but they felt like failures. And we all know, again, those feelings are very real. So those have been my favorite success stories, the ones where people out of nowhere will just text us now, you know. Oh, again, there wasn't texting when we started either. There wasn't that either. But now they'll text us and they'll say, hey, do you remember me? I just wanted to show you pictures of my whatever family room or my living room, or look what I did in my drawer. And they were able to do it themselves, and just the pride that they feel and how they've applied what they're learning, which again has informed the way we teach. So those are the success stories. And that allows us to be more successful because we learn from them. Okay, that resonated. We're constantly kind of shifting the way we teach based on whatever we're learning at the time. So when I was first learning coaching skills, that really helped me interact with my clients better. So again, their successes wind up becoming our successes because it helps us to better support either them in the future or the new clients that come along. I hope that answered your questions. Maybe that's off the top of my head. I'll try to think of one, you know, when I'm not in the hot seat, and I'll let you know, Ben, if there's one in particular. But they're all special to me. I think maybe that's what it is. You know, I could show you some really wow pictures, but it's really not about the pictures, because in a lot of those pictures, I just could have shoved the clutter out of the way and taken a great picture. The after picture doesn't show the work that the client went, you know, the work they did on themselves and the work they did with us, physical, mental, emotional, to have that breakthrough. And I think those are the successes that certainly keep me motivated and keep me wanting to stay on top of my game, so I could help people, for sure.
We know you've helped a lot of people, for sure. So
it is my honor.
Well, I know that's one of your main goal is to focus on your client's progress. Like that's what I've.
It is. It is.
And how
Well,
that
you know, that's my favorite quote. Anybody who knows, anybody in the MA program, MAHS program knows, you know, what my favorite quote is. The one that's attributed to the Persian poet Hafez, but very sadly, I found out it's really a rendering of Hafiz from Daniel Ladinsky. He's an American poet who should have just claimed credit for it because it's a beautiful sentiment. And I have it up on my wall, which is why I'm looking to the side right now. And it says, "I wish I could show you, when you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being." That has really become the hallmark for me of whatever whatever hat I'm wearing. You know, with my coaching clients, sometimes I don't at all talk about organizing. You know, so whatever hat I'm wearing, that's what we want people to see. We want them to see their astonishing light. We either want to amplify the light that's already there, or we want to ignite the light that was there maybe once, but for whatever reason has gone out, and we want to help them reignite that and relight that. And those are the moments that bring me the greatest joy and fulfillment. And I just think this work lends itself to doing something similar no matter what industry you're in and what your role is in that industry.
you enjoy helping people and you enjoy helping them reach their whatever goal they set out to, you know, have, and you're their support person, and you know, you guiding them and leading them to a happier life for sure. I mean, you've
trying to give them the tools, you know, to help them. Again, you know, teach a person to fish and they can feed themselves. You know, we're trying to do that, trying to, again, to get them to get, you know, we know all of this stuff, right? And so sometimes we forget. I know I shouldn't speak for everybody. Sometimes I forget, honestly, because I surround myself with like-minded people, and I surround myself with people like you all who are studying this stuff. And I sometimes have conversations with people, and sometimes what they hook onto, I'm like, oh my goodness, I forget that not everybody knows this. These things that we may even consider a little bit basic now in this realm is so not basic. It still has the potential to be utterly life-changing. And, you know, that's, again, every time I have a conversation like that, I'm reminded of how important it is to give people tools, you know. And that's another way how things have been interconnected, just to kind of share my journey, since this is WholeBeing Journey. I will offer people mind-body skills too to my organizing clients, whereas before I knew about such things. I didn't have that tool in my toolbox for myself or other people. Now I can teach my clients how to self-regulate through breath when we're not there. You know, I can give them a little protocol. Here are some things that you can do if you're working on this on your own. You know, because sometimes people can only afford us for one session, maybe. Or maybe it'll be a while before they can have us again because of their schedule or whatever. So there could be time in between. It's not like everybody has this wealth of money to spend on that. So how can I support them even when I'm not with them? How can I give them tools? So, okay, you know what to do. You're going to do what we did. But obviously we're not there when you get stuck to kind of talk you through it and to help you through it. But what tools can I leave with you that you can employ yourselves? Mm-hmm. So if you start to get panicked, okay, how does that show up for you? How can I get them to gain a little bit of awareness as to how does panic or anxiety show up in my body or in my mind? You know, what thoughts are coming up for me? And I think that's why when I did my final project and I talked about how to shift to the positive when the negative was no longer serving, because I do believe that negative emotions and thoughts to a certain extent can be helpful. It's just when they stop being helpful that you want to shift them. But when I taught about shifting them, I chose to do a mind, body, spirit approach because, again, the more tools you have in your toolbox, the better. And sometimes you might need a mental tool oh, that's a negative thought, and I'm recognizing this. And I'm realizing how often this thought comes up. It's an ant. It's an automatic negative thought, an ant, right? Like ants at a picnic. Once one shows up, right? Family's not far behind. Oh, what do I want to do from a mental standpoint or a cognitive standpoint? How can I shift that belief or that thought in the moment, in real time, to shift myself out of that? Or maybe I need to pause and to, just do a short meditation or a short round of breath work, calm my nervous system down. Maybe I need to walk outside in nature and just take a walk around the block before I come back to organizing. Like, what tools can I give my clients also to do that? So that they, again, are better equipped in the time in between. Because that's really, it's very easy to have kind of breakthroughs when you're with them, but how can we support them when we're not with them and help them support themselves?
Wonderful. Well, we have another question for you.
Okay.
From Chanel. What advice would you now give the Annmarie of 30 years ago?
So much advice, we might have to have another session. I used to joke. There's I went to this restaurant on Long Island years ago, and they had like a little village attached to it, and there were like little shops. And I went into one of the little shops, and on the shelf was a book, and the title of the book, and apparently there's another book with the same title, but I had never heard of either one of them. And the title of the book was Calm the F Down. And I laughed when I first saw it. I said, oh, that should be a parenting book. And then when I looked more closely, it was Calm the F Down. So part of me, my advice would be, again, it's in retrospect. I didn't have the tools back in the day to calm myself down, but I wouldn't spend so much time in worry thoughts. And now I'm a resilience trainer who can help people learn the skills to shift that and to go from worrier to warrior. But I didn't have those skills then. So if I could go back and, guide my former self, I don't know that I'd give so much advice as I would teach myself these tools that I did not have as a child. I would teach myself how to self-regulate. I would teach myself how to shift and use positive language. How to reframe what I'm thinking in positive language. And we'll all learn from appreciative inquiry and appreciative coaching and all those other units where that type of thing was mentioned, how powerful that can be. How to frame my prayers in terms of what I want, not what I am afraid of or what I don't want. I would tell myself to be brave. I would tell myself to go for it, because I would teach myself about what it means to have a growth mindset. Because if I had understood what a growth mindset was, maybe I would have gone for it. And I wouldn't have cared if I didn't get the audition, or, if I didn't get the role. I wouldn't have cared. I just would have kept going. It would have allowed me to have a perseverance, instead of playing it safe. Again, maybe I wouldn't be here if I had done that, but there are dreams that definitely got deferred because I played it safe, and I would have been more curious and perhaps braver. So that I think I would not to worry about making a mistake, not to worry about what other people think of you, not to worry about being perfect. Not that I was always worried about being perfect, but I was always worried about doing a good job. I will say that. I tried to excel in school. Like I do recognize where that comes into play. And as I've gotten older, I've let go of that a lot. I still strive for excellence, but I don't let that stop me. I can give you an example of that. I do social media for my company. Am I the best person for the job? Probably not, but we're a two-person operation, and I have certain skills and my partner has certain skills that she's much better at than I am. And so we do what we do. But in learning social media, I realized that sometimes you have to make it messy. If I wait for it to be perfect, I'm never going to put any content out there. And so I can't always worry that I'm not a graphic designer and I'm not, you know what I mean? Like, I do the best I can, and I do pretty well. I mean, I've learned a lot over the years. But if I based it on what I think it should be, I would never have any content out there. So I really pay attention to the people, because we get a lot of DMs from people. I think because organization, people that are coming at it feel a lot of negative emotions. They feel a lot of shame and embarrassment. We don't always get comments on the posts. We get a lot of DMs, and the DMs will be like, that really resonated with me. I really needed to hear that today. Thank you for saying that. And that takes me out of myself and takes my thoughts off myself. And am I failing? Am I doing a good job? You know what I mean? Like, and it makes me other focused, which is, again, a hallmark of what Chris Peterson said, right? One of the founding fathers of positive psychology. He said, other people matter. And so I try to be other focused, because when I go down that rabbit hole of, am I good enough? Like, that's a very dark and bad place. So I try not to do that. I try to remember that, I'm putting this out there with a good energy and a good spirit and with the best of intentions. And, if I miss a comma, that's okay. Or if sometimes there's a typo, old me, I was a perfectionist in that regard. You know what I mean? I was a proofreader for many years. So like, I find the typos and things, I find the mistakes, and my eye sees that. I've learned not to focus on that. I've learned to focus on the intent. And so I would, again, that's another thing. I would just tell my younger self, don't worry, you're learning, you're growing, make it messy, take risks, try different things. That doesn't mean I wouldn't have gotten a degree to fall back on. You know what I mean? I do believe that there are certain things that it's okay to prepare for. That served me to have my bachelor's degree. It certainly allowed me to get a master's degree. So I don't regret some of those choices, but I regret not. I regret that I didn't feel brave enough to take those chances. Because I realized that over the years, when I have taken a leap, it's usually been wonderful. It's usually outshined my worries about said leap. Does that answer the question?
Yes. Oh, that's great. We have another one. What
Okay.
trends do you see emerging in the field of professional organizing and personal well-being?
Can you repeat that? Because I didn't hear the first part of it. What trends did you say?
Trends. Yep. Do you see emerging in the field of professional organizing and personal well-being? Do you see any trends that are coming up now more than maybe they were before in your organizing?
What I'm noticing for a long time, we follow a lot of organizers. There's such a wonderful community of professional organizers out there, and we follow each other and support each other. And for a long time, I noticed that, and to a degree, we still are different in the way we teach organization. There was a trend. There's more of the trend, which I hope, I think of trends as short term. So I hope that this is just a shift. I'd rather talk about it in terms of being a shift. There's much more of a focus on the impact of disorganization and organization on mental health. And there's much more of a platform for conversation around that. And I'm really excited about that. That's something, like one of my goals, and you guys can all encourage me to be brave. So I'll put that out there on this platform into the universe. Like when I go to like the conventions like WAHASU, I love it. I soak it all in. I take it all in and I love it. And every year though, I feel like there is a gap. There's a missing piece in there. There's a chance to talk about the impact of our environment, which there's so much we can't control in this world. We really can't. There's a lot happening in the world right now that we cannot control, but we can control our personal space and our environment and how we um, kind of set up organizing systems in our life to support how we want to live and how that impacts us. It's like, again, one pathway to higher well-being. And I think the trend is towards making that connection in a way that wasn't there before. Like when we wrote Beyond Tidy, that wasn't talked about a lot. And the only reason why we called it Beyond Tidy is because the publisher insisted on having the word tidy in the title, because Marie Kondo was a big deal. And Marie Kondo, it was the magical art of tidying up. And so again, search engine optimization and, and they ride trends. So that's why, one person comes out with something and then it seems like there's a lot of copycats out there and all of that. It was trending. The word tidy was trending. I'm like, we don't like the word tidy. People think being tidy is being organized, and they're not the same thing. But I had to do, listen, we're first time authors. So, we don't have any clout or any pull. You do what they tell you to do. And so I'm like, all right, how can I get that in there where it still feels though, like it's in alignment with the way we teach? And so we talked about, I said, well, you know what? It's beyond tidy. I literally, that's how we came up. It's beyond tidy. It's about, how does this affect our relationships? How does this affect our spending habits, our buying behavior, which is impacting our financial well-being, which is impacting our relationships, which is impacting our ability to have better experiences or to feed our family effectively or to have more enrichment programs in our lives and things like that. There's so many different ways. And so we called it Beyond Tidy, but not a lot of people talk about that. You see a lot of pictures on Pinterest and it's all about, hey, let's go to the Container Store and buy perfectly matching, neutral colored, organizers and make it look beautiful. And that was the trend. I did a blog post you guys can read, three organizing trends to turn it around and to take that question from a different perspective. Organizing trends, like very fancy folding was a big organizing trend for a while, like origami like folding. And it's fascinating. Like I look at it, that's almost like I can have a mindful moment just looking at hours and hours of people folding, dish towels and jeans and shirts and sweaters into these, like very. But the average person who's trying to dig out of disorganization, if we can get you to get all your jeans on a certain shelf, that's a win. You know what I mean? So like if you're at a higher level of organization and you want to fold your jeans into an origami like, figure, we're not against that. But I didn't like the message of that being, you're more organized if you do that. Because that is very, very discouraging for the person who is like, I don't even know where my jeans are. I can't find socks that match, right? What about the person who has focusing issues? Somebody who may have ADHD or some other type of real issue that prevents them from doing certain tasks or staying on task. So again, there was a trend toward that. There was a trend towards decanting everything. Have you ever seen that? Those beautiful clear containers and they're decanting flour and sugar and pasta. Decanting, traditionally the word is meant for liquids, but in the world of organizing, it means taking like dry ingredients and putting them into other containers. The person who's drowning in disorganization, it's like to add extra steps of that does not serve them. So again, if they're at A in the alphabet, we're not decanting. Even file folding, vertical folding, we're big proponents of that. I have several drawers where everything is file folded. We teach it. We are big proponents of it, but not for everybody. And that doesn't mean they're less than. It just means you're not up to that yet. Don't make that the goal. We always say being organized means knowing what you have and where to find it when you need it. Easily, without stress, and without disrupting the rest of your space. There shouldn't be an avalanche every time you go to grab something. If we can achieve that with you, we're happy. Now, if you go to my sock drawer is all organized by type. It's all folded nicey nice, all divided. But if a person has all their socks in one drawer, and if they need a sock, they go to that drawer. And when they're done with the laundry and they put it in that drawer, folded or unfolded, they're organized too. So again, the trends, that's what we're seeing. Decanting everything, which I'm hoping, I hope people don't get discouraged by that. The folding and the fancy folding and the vertical folding. I would say those are the three biggest ones, because it doesn't paint the whole picture. It requires a consistency to always do it. And again, you don't want another reason to feel like you're failing, right? Let's just kind of focus on the next step. Yes, you can decant everything. They show you beautiful videos, pouring the pasta in or pouring the flour into the container. And then they show the pantry with the beautiful, all the things. And guess what? Do you think every single thing they poured into a container fit perfectly in that container? Or do you think 9 times out of 10 there was leftovers? But what do the videos not show you? What do they do with the leftovers? Where are they? They're not in the picture of the perfectly organized pantry. So if you're not teaching somebody how to manage their space, that's not going to help them. Now, if you're at a higher level of organization, we could recommend all three of those. All three of those things. They could be very effective, and they could be very meditative. So if they're meditative for you, like when I fold my laundry, I find it to be a meditative experience. I don't hate folding laundry. I like folding laundry. I don't like doing laundry in general or when I'm under the gun, but the actual act of folding laundry, I like. So if folding something again into like 27 different folds to fold the same pair of jeans that I folded like in half twice, if that gives you a sense of accomplishment, makes you feel really good when you open the drawer, if it raises your positive emotions, and it makes you want to stay organized because you love it and it energizes you, then you stick with it and you do it. But not because it's a trend that somebody said, hey, you should be doing this. Always recognize when something serves you and when it doesn't. And that's why I'm not always against negative thoughts and emotions. Sometimes negative emotions propel me. Sometimes I get irritated and that motivates me to take action. If I dwell on it and I stay stunk in there and it no longer serves me, I'll shift myself out of it. But I don't try to pretend that the negative emotions or thoughts aren't there. I work with them. We have a relationship and we have an understanding, but if the trend serves you, go for it. We'll be your biggest cheerleader. But if it doesn't, don't let that discourage you from staying on the path to learning new organizing skills. The simplest solution sometimes is the most effective. And if it works for you and your family, then there are no issues. You do not need to change.
I love it. I love it. I have two favorite organizing tips.
Share them with me. Maybe you'll teach me something.
You taught me. It was folding the tissue paper. This should be on a video because really.
I'll do a video on that if you want me to.
Show a picture of.
Oh my gosh.
Of your folded tissue paper. And
you have to tell the story. I'm a crazy person about wasting tissue paper that you buy at the store. I never want to buy tissue paper for wrapping presents. It irritates me. It's, we all have our weird little quirks, things that annoy us. In the scheme of things, should that annoy me? No. But, I sweat the small stuff, and I don't want to buy tissue paper and then throw it out. Or when I get a gift, it's like, I don't want to put it in the garbage if it was just crumpled a little bit to put in my little gift bag and I just got this beautiful present. So I will flatten out the tissue paper and I fold it and I have it in a box, and it's of course in rainbow order. And it looks really pretty and actually makes me happy to look at. And I haven't bought tissue paper in, I don't know, decades now. And Teresa knows because
as long as I know you.
I have some of her tissue paper that she has given me over the years. And my friends actually will sometimes give me tissue paper, but I never exceed my space. I never exceed that box, that space. That's how I manage my space.
But it's also, it's mostly color, has like, it's a variety of colors. So
Variety of colors, yep, and patterns. I have the patterns separate, but
Yep.
and listen, if I had to downsize, I don't need half of what I have. The issue, you know, when you're trying to decide, do I have too much? Most of us have too much of stuff. It's whether or not the stuff that you have is taking away space from the things that you do actually need and use. And right now, I have the space in my current situation to house my box, my boot box worth of tissue paper. You know, I don't smoke, I don't drink, I don't do, you know, I don't have so many vices. I have a little bit of a tissue paper fetish. So I do have that, I admit that. But the idea is, again, not to exceed your space.
Right.
So, because sometimes what we think of as clutter, it's not clutter. Actually, we're just keeping stuff that we're not using anymore, we don't like, we don't fit into, and all of that's like neat and tidy on the shelves. And then the stuff that we do need looks like clutter. But the messy stuff that looks like clutter is not the clutter. That's your stuff. That's the stuff you need. The clutter is the stuff that's hiding in your closets, in your drawers, that you're keeping intentionally for a variety of reasons that we call clutter by reason. So, but again, we would need a whole other session to talk about that.
I really think we need another. This was very quickly, and we're gonna have to do a part 2.
Ooh, Ben, you're raising your hand.
Yes,
you.
we definitely need a part 2 with
Yeah.
thank you, Annmarie, for being our special guest today, and thank you to Lisa
My pleasure.
for hosting this program. And yeah, we'll definitely need a part 2 for many of us. And on that note, we do want to keep this within 90 minutes. That way, everyone can plan for their day.
For sure.
You know, it's about organizing. But before we go, I do want to express my appreciation to Annmarie for her final project in the very last semester of the MA in Happiness Studies, and she did it on the quote that Chanel shared. I wish I could show you. When you are lonely or in darkness, the astonishing light of your own being. At first, I thought it was boring to do an hour presentation on a poem. It's not even like like couple of sentences. It's just very short, but it was so meaningful. And recently, Jasmine and I have been making music on, you know, well-being and happiness. So I do have a song that dedicated to you, Annmarie. It has a lot to do with the quote that you share, and the presentation that you did. It's really helped me, and I hope you like it. And
Thank
that,
you.
I would like to say thank you to everyone, and I hope you have a wonderful evening. All right, here it is.
Thank you, everyone.
In the stillness of the night, I find glimmers of truth that light the mind. Every question, every doubt fades away. In the quiet, I hear the wisdom say, a world so vast, yet I see so clear. In these moments, there's nothing to fear. The universe whispers, the stars align, guiding me to where my soul should shine. Enlightened moments breaking through. Every shadow fades in the view. With every breath I rise, I grow. In the light of truth, I overflow. Through the mist of everyday haze, I walk the path that the light now paves. No more illusion, no more disguise. In the dawn of truth I over lies. A world so vast, yet I see so clear. In these moments there's nothing to fear. The universe whispers, the stars align, guiding me to where my soul should shine. And like moments breaking through, every shadow fades in the view. With every breath I rise, I grow. In the light of truth I overflow. Through the moment of insight I stand tall. The light within, the greatest call. No more darkness, no more night. In these moments I find my light. In the glow of insight I stand tall. The light within, the greatest call. No more darkness, no more night. In these moments I find my light. Glimpses of truth through the haze. In the quiet, the light gently sways. Moments flash like sparks in the dark, waking thoughts that had been afar. Whispers of clarity, now they start, igniting the fire within the heart. In every breath, in every sigh, the answers dance before my eyes. Oh, world anew, in every try I find the truth, no more disguise. Ooh, illuminated, I'm alive. In this light I thrive. Every shadow now subsides. Inside embrace these guiding tides. And in this space I feel grow. A beacon shining, a steady glow. A beacon shining, a steady glow. No longer lost, I now know. The way is clear, the truth will show. The journey ends where it began. In the light I find who I am.
I could listen to that all night.
Right. Once again, thank you so much for joining us, and we are looking forward to our part 2. All right. Thank you, Clarice. Thank you,
That's so
Annmarie.
funny.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, everybody.
Goodbye.
Thank
Have a
you.
wonderful evening or morning if
Bye.
you are on the other side of the globe. Goodbye now.
Bye.